Hello, everyone. Welcome to AI Everywhere Leaders Podcast, where we explore how artificial intelligence is transforming leadership and business strategy. I'm your host, Adriana, and today I'm thrilled to have a conversation that I know will inspire and challenge our listeners in equal measure. Our guest today is Allegra Patrizi, a trailblazing leader who has navigated some of the most complex challenges in financial services while pioneering AI adoption at the highest levels. From doubling the value of Aegon Netherlands as CEO to leading Virgin Money to win the UK's Best AI Application in Financial Services Award to now founding Silver Stripes Ventures with its leading Claridora app for senior leaders. And also, she's writing a book that promises to redefine how we think about leadership in the AI age. Allegra, welcome to the show.
Hello, Adriana. And I'm so grateful for you having me. I've been the former CEO of Aegon in the Netherlands and also the managing director of Virgin Money for all its business activities, both on the commercial and on the retail side. And more recently, I've founded Silver Stripe Ventures, which is a very small group leading really three types of activities. One that has to do with educating and helping senior leaders in bringing transformation through AI, powered by AI, involving AI. Another aspect which is around bringing automatization and agentic AIs into all sorts of companies, big and small. And the third one that has to do, of course, with a version of a sort of consulting, strategic consulting, and really thinking about what's next. And one of the very concrete applications of all this has been Claridora, an app that we've recently launched, and that is essentially providing every senior leader that is a member of it with a very tailored approach on everything that is of significant development around AI, tailored to their sector and role, with actionable insights and questions they can raise to their team. So really trying to equip them with everything it takes in order to lead in the age of AI. And the other thing I've done is I'm getting a book out called Care Dare Share, and I'm sure we'll go in more depths around the Care Dare Share aspect. So Care Dare Share, lead and thrive with heart, mind, AI, because I profoundly believe that in this age of AI, we will need new types of leaders that start with their heart and combine that with their mind and the power of AI. This is not about replacing, this is about amplifying and bringing kindness and heart and courage to the fore.
Love it. Thank you, Allegra. So happy to have you on the podcast. Before we dive deep into your current work with AI and your whole entrepreneurial journey, I'd love to hear more about your path to leadership. You became the youngest partner ever elected at McKinsey at only 29, then went to lead major transformations in financial services. What drove you to keep pushing boundaries throughout your career?
Curiosity and the willingness to celebrate life. I'm somebody that loves taking organizations forward, taking people forward, understanding the art of the possible. And so every challenge, every step up was an opportunity to just do that. And I was enthused that in doing so, I could advance business, which basically means society, means going forward with things. And so, yes, just that curiosity and willingness to celebrate life altogether.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Your career spans some incredible transformations. I was mentioning from McKinsey, you've been partnered there, to leading major financial institutions through periods of significant change. What were some of the pivotal moments that shaped your leadership philosophy or of Care Dare Share?
I was a engineering student, and then at McKinsey, I always led a little bit with my brain, to be honest, if I'm really honest, as I was young. And then I became the CEO of Aegon in the Netherlands. It was a country that, although I loved and knew quite well, I didn't speak very well the language of. It was the first time they had a foreigner, and it was the first time they had a woman. And I figured I can't just lead with brain. That is not going to take us anywhere. And what I realized is that it had to start with heart. It had to start with who I was. It had to start with sharing the understanding of where my customers and where our people wanted to go, what were their ambitions, what were their pain points. I think that has been the single biggest pivotal moment in my career. I think the second one is when we won at Virgin Money the Best Application of AI in Financial Services Award, because it sort of vindicated a view that I had put forward, which is I think we can use this tool to really take out some of the friction and some of the pain points that both customers and employees are going through. And this is a fantastic technology that we could deploy. So I think these two are the ones that really shaped my philosophy in the recent years.
Excellent. You've operated in predominantly male industries throughout your career. We were just talking about that before recording. So, as a woman leading at the C-suite level, what challenges did you face and how did you navigate them while staying true to your personal leadership style?
You see, it's a question I've had many times in my life. And I would say I've never been anything else than a woman. I've never been anything else than a leader. And so as I was growing in my career, I decided to just be myself, figuring that probably everybody else has exactly the same issues. They're just disguised in a slightly different way. And so basically, what I would say is be yourself, be who you are, find the balance, find that genuine love for yourself, because care, dare, share starts with you, starts caring for who you are, daring to be who you are, and admitting that you're not perfect, sharing what your dreams are, what your weaknesses are, and just not pretending to be anything else, sharing your true identity. Of course, some people may not like it. Some people may use it against you. So be it. That's their loss. But I believe in differences in perspective. I believe in bringing a certain number of views to the discussion, because you know what? A party made of all the same people is a very, very, very boring party.
Excellent. Great to hear that. At Aegon Netherlands, you double the company's value. I think it's super important to highlight that. And you grew to become the fourth largest bank in the Netherlands. What role did you approach to risk and innovation played in achieving all those results?
So, I had been, before being the CEO of Aegon the Netherlands, I had been the CRO of the Aegon Group for many years. And that is something that really helped me in understanding that risk is not something to be avoided. It's something to be understood and composed with. There's risk in everything. There's risk in crossing the road, but you're not going to stop crossing the road, right? So that's basically what we brought, risk and innovation. So I love your question. And essentially, it was to say, what is it that we can do better for our clients, first and foremost? What is it that we can do better for our people, second? And then what is it that we are doing a bit because we've always done it like that, and maybe we should rethink it? Now, I'm not advocating change for change's sake, not at all. But you need to have the courage from time to time to say, it's not because we've always done it like that, that we should continue always doing it like that. We should do it always as it is if there's a good reason. But if there's a better reason, a better technology, a better way, if circumstances have changed, let's embrace it. So care starts with understanding your customer and your people. Dare starts with daring to take those decisions that maybe somebody else before you did not dare to take, because, hey, it's always dangerous to take a new decision. And sharing, this is a very important point, as a leader. It's very easy to take the credit and put the accountability on everybody else when it fails. As a good leader, you should do the exact contrary. Share the success, but take the accountability of any failure. And it's only by doing that that you authorize, that you create the safety for everybody to experiment in an open and participative way. And it's when experimentation or innovation can come from everybody, but at the same time, it's not hidden, it's not secret, it's not feared, that you can really make enormous strides forward. So I'll tell you an example at Virgin Money, and I'm not going to go into anything confidential of any kind, but we were thinking about how to create this fantastic application on AI. And one person in the team, it was a very big team, said, we've always thought about using this platform. Why don't we use this completely different platform, which nobody had thought of, but is actually one of the best platforms we have? But because it was in a different business, nobody was thinking about it. And we all looked at each other. Remember, it was a long workshop with a lot of pizzas involved, because I always like to bring pizzas to
Good food
things.
choice.
A lot of pizzas involved. And we said, yes, you're right. That could be the way out. So that's the point. Innovation doesn't come necessarily from a leader. It may come from a leader, but it may come from anybody. But as a leader, your duty is to create that safe space, that open environment, that beautiful blooming field that allows everybody and anybody to raise their hand and to say, hey, what about this? And to take it potentially forward. Not every idea is going to be a good idea, but certainly if you don't listen to it, you'll never know there was that idea.
Excellent. Creating that safe space for everyone basically to speak up. I love your approach. Now, for our listeners who maybe are aspiring leaders, particularly women in male dominated industries, what sort of advice would you give about building credibility while bringing a different perspective maybe to the table?
So, as I said earlier, be yourself, but I would add to that, be prepared. You can't just be yourself if you don't know, if you cannot talk that same language. So be prepared, know what you're talking about, go the extra mile. I think if you bring what I've discovered, at least in my experience, if you bring that care, which is your heart, and that dare, which is the courage to act and the courage to propose, you know what? It doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman, you're pretty unbeatable, because that is the making of a true leader. And if you attach to that the share, i.e., the self consciousness, the realization that you're not Superman or Superwoman, but you're just one of the lads, one of the people trying to make it happen, well, the combination of those three things make you a fundamentally strong leader. Whether the people in that room are clever enough to recognize it, or you'll have to move to another room, such is life. Sometimes that happens. But certainly, that's how you make yourself heard and valuable to the team.
Great advice. Let's talk about your pioneering work with AI in financial services. You mentioned before at Virgin Money, you led the team that won the UK Best AI Application in Financial Services Award, and I would like to kind of double click a bit on that. Can you walk us through how you approached AI implementation as a strategic leader rather than just a technology adopter?
Of course, look, we were the sixth retail bank of the UK. So you can imagine that a lot of the other banks were stronger than us on many fronts. So we had to innovate. And we had this fantastic brand that was linked to the Virgin Group that gave us the permission to do things differently. And so I strongly encourage my team, led by a few very, very strong individuals, to really experiment with this. And what we figured out is that in the end, as many banks around, there are a number of legacy systems in IT legacy systems that are just very difficult to go around. It happens in any bank because they were created in the 80s, in the 90s, sometimes even in the 70s. And so by using AI, we were able actually to go around some of these systems and create a customer interface that would be significantly more customer friendly, that would be based essentially on dialogue, that would actually, where the agentic AI would be able to do a number of very simple tasks, not very complicated, because of course you also want to be very prudent in a bank, but could do a number of simple tasks that to customers really meant that their lives became a lot simpler. And at the end of the day, this is not about doing revolution. This is about taking things that happen every day that cause pain either to customers, pain and friction either to customers or to employees, and finding ways to jump that hurdle and make things a lot simpler. And so that's fundamentally the thinking that pushed us forward. And then we had a few clever ideas in collaborating with a number of very big vendors such as Microsoft and a few others, and really took it to the next level. But essentially, it came from the idea of how can we make things better for our customers, knowing that the legacy systems are what they are.
You've written about agentic AI a lot, so AI that can act autonomously to achieve goals. How is this shifting the role of leaders? Are we moving from directing to orchestrating? What do you think?
So this is a topic I'm very passionate about. There is this concept that AI is necessarily going to bring a lot of replacement of humans. I actually dare to disagree. Of course, there could be some of it in certain aspects. But I do think that at the end of the day, it's a little bit like when we invented cars. Nobody realized how big the car distribution, the car repair industry, that the roads, that actually it would create suburbia, right? Nobody dared to imagine all that. And so, in a way, it's not that things have been replaced, they've been shifted. And so, I think AI, and in particular, agentic AI, for me, is something that can do something extraordinary, which is amplifying people. And it's essentially giving wings and shoes to somebody that wants to run a marathon. Because what I believe is very important when you implement AI is that the key driver, the key leader, the key conductor needs to remain the human. This part of the human is irreplaceable. It's the empathy, it's the judgment, it's the experience, it's the ability to deal with a lot of actions at the same time, with different contexts, etc. This part in a human is extraordinary. But in a day of a typical person, even at a senior level, there are many things that frankly are not that extraordinary. And those can be definitely delegated to an agent. So the way I look at these agentic AIs is essentially like a team of junior people that want to learn. And there's absolutely no reason why I wouldn't give a chance to some of those to take some of the tasks off, right? The same way that when I was CEO, I wouldn't write all my marketing myself. Some people would help me in doing that. Well, today, tomorrow, everybody can actually have next to their team, next to their human team, a few agentic AIs that can actually help the team perform at a higher pace, at a better speed, better accuracy, and with this quality that AI has, which is incredible memory, but also with this huge shortcomings that AI has, which is a complete lack of common sense. And that's where the human can actually really help. It's the combination of the two that makes the beauty happens.
Excellent. In your experience leading major transformations, how has AI changed the speed and the nature of executive decision making? What are leaders getting right, and where are they being kind of stumbling a bit?
So I have a weekly newsletter about that on LinkedIn. And I will tell you, I think we're still very much at the beginning of using AI in any transformation. So what I can say is that some of the big things I tell to boards and senior leaders when we have a conversation is a couple of things. First is keep everything simple. Don't start going AI just for the sake of AI. The same way that, you wouldn't use a hammer to open an egg because there's no egg left. So use the right tool at the right moment. Be simple, be focused. The second thing I would say that is extremely important is it has all to do with the human. If the human is not on board, if you don't participate with the humans, with your employees in devising the systems and in creating the tools, it will fail. Because even the best of cars, if it's not properly driven, goes into a wall, however you want. So the human, it starts with the human, it is for the human, it needs to be with the human. Absolutely. The third thing is really to realize that AI is in a way a pretext to tackle some of the issues that as a company maybe you have not tackled for many years. Things like the data structure, things like the cleanliness of your data, things like your processes, are they too cumbersome? So in a way, AI becomes a bit of a catalyst to bring some highly needed thought through in some of the ways you just do things. Why are you asking certain questions to customers? Why are you doing certain things in a certain way? Is it because sometimes somebody wrote a manual and nobody there to question it? Or is it because it's really creating value for the customers, for security, for the employees, for whatever it is? So these are among my three bigger things. And has it accelerated decision taking? I'm not sure. Not yet. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. We're still very much at the beginning. And as a very senior leader, you need to be very careful not to bring AI too quickly, but also you cannot be left behind. So you need to be very wise in how you do it and be very practical that it creates value, because the biggest risk you run is that you rush into it and then you create, it was so and so CEO little petty hobby project. It never failed. And actually, by doing that, you set your company back by a number of years. So this trust and skepticism is certainly something you need not to get. And in order not to get it, starts with people, continues with people, and succeed through people. As I always say in my newsletter, is build, succeed, showcase, repeat.
Excellent. We're going to share your newsletter in the comments below, depending on which platform our listeners are listening the podcast, to make sure that they are able to follow you. I really wanted us to talk a bit more about your platform, Corridor AI. It focuses on curated AI insights for board members and senior executives, which I think it's absolutely amazing. What are the biggest misconceptions you see leaders are having about AI's impact on their industries?
The single biggest mistake you can make is to think this is a technological development. Yes, it has technology at it, but at the end of the day, it's much deeper. If you treat it like an issue for the CTO, the Chief Technology Officer, you're already on the wrong track. So as a senior leader, many of them, we need to realize that I'm in the age where when we were born, the most advanced thing was the Commodore 64, and it came when I was 8 years old. For some of the current CEOs, they were maybe 14 years old, right? The iPhone only came when we were in our 40s, really, 35. So I think we need to realize that some of the senior leaders are a bit scared, to be honest, to ask the question. And that is possibly why they tend to give it to the chief technology officer. In a way, is to basically deal with a problem without really dealing with a problem. What I would encourage them to do is try to experiment. You don't need to become a coder. You don't need to become a guru, but just try a few things. Try a little automation on make.com, on NA10. And by the way, I'm not paid by any of these software companies for anything. Try to make a little automation. Try to see the difference between different LLMs. Just don't wait to have everything taught to you. Be hands-on, because the same way you built your leadership by having enough intuition about a number of things such that you could lead your organization forward, this is a very important development on which you also need to have some basic intuitions. That will make you a much better leader, but also one that can care. I understand what is possible, understand where we're going to use what, and share, i.e., being part of this, of what's happening, of what your employees are going through, and therefore be part of the gang.
For leaders who feel maybe a bit overwhelmed by the pace of AI development, how do you recommend they approach building their AI fluency without losing their focus on their core business responsibilities?
So I went through a very nice phase when I took a break from executive life, and that was in December. I had this dream to start coding an application, and I, like them, was completely terrified at that thought. And this despite having been an engineer and having had that Commodore 64 I was talking about. So I asked my go-to advisor, my children, how would you do it? Because one of my children, my boy, is actually very much into computer. He looked at me and said, Mama, it's obvious. You start with one of those internet site builders. It can be Wix, it can be Bubble.io, it can be anything really. And you watch YouTube. YouTube. I said, YouTube, really? Well, little did I know that I actually followed his advice. And yes, the first time you go on these tools, you're terrified. And then you understand that they don't create everything by themselves, contrary to what popular beliefs does. But at the same time, there are a lot of very low code tools that can help you a lot. And by watching a few of these YouTubes, you also understand quite a bit of the mechanics, etc. Now, what has happened is, since I've done that, quite a few of my colleagues and friends at senior levels have asked me, Allegra, would you please start making videos of this? And so I've started last week with my very, very first self-produced video, which I also put on LinkedIn, and I'll put it on YouTube. And then I promised myself that on a regular basis, I will just show people how you can, at the tender age of 50 or more, with absolutely no coding experience, just try some of the things. And you know what? You won't die. Nothing will happen. If anything, you'll come out enthused, more fun, more engaged with the people in your company that do it, and certainly with a much, much better intuition of what these systems can, but more importantly, what they cannot do. Because they're not the magic that we say they are, equally, they're very powerful. So you need to understand what they can and cannot do.
Thank you. That's really good. So, after decades of leading established organizations, you've made the leap to entrepreneurship with Silver Stripes Ventures. What prompted this transition, and how has your experience differed from the corporate leadership roles you've been into?
So it had been trotting through my head for quite a few years. I had had a number of debates with friends, etc., who had dared to take the step, and I had never dared to take the step. And the right moment came. Um, but also, basically, as I said earlier, it's about celebrating life and having curiosity. And in December, I had a fantastic discussion with a friend of mine, a woman, and she has created all sorts of companies. She's been very successful. And she said, Allegra, you should give it a try. And so I thought, look, Allegra, you have a bit of time. You would be stupid not to give it a try. You would be stupid not to be curious. And I thought, but what am I going to do? Is it going to be in cooking? Because I love cooking, for example. I wrote a cookbook many, many years ago. So I thought, is it around lifestyle? Is it around cooking? Is it a version of Martha Stewart or something like that? And then I thought and thought, and then I thought, no, actually, it's going to be AI, because if I consider my executive life, what I notice is that we as senior executives are taking a number of decisions, but not necessarily having the hands-on knowledge about AI. And I think that that is important, to have at least a few senior executives that can bring that knowledge, intuition into decision taking. So I may not be an entrepreneur forever, we'll see. But if I ever go back into executive life, I want to be that executive that can bring that perspective. And in the meanwhile, I'm actually having the time of my life. I'm meeting people that I never thought I would meet. I was at Vivatech and London Tech Week last week, first time in my life for both. I am having a blast. And every day I wake up thinking, what am I building today? What am I reflecting on today? What am I pushing on today? Very, very different than from when I was an executive. So I love it. It's an incredible, energizing moment of my life.
So great to hear that. So just to summarize, Silver Stripe Ventures operates in three key areas. So you have AI education for executives, agentic AI development, and strategic consulting. How do these areas complement each other, and what vision are you building towards?
Fundamentally, it's all about understanding how AI can play a part in business. And business is not only large enterprises. Before you're a large enterprise, you're a small and medium enterprise. And usually, in reality, disruption comes from the small and medium enterprises. And so basically, what I wanted to make sure is that I would reflect and operate at those various levels of the scale. And that's exactly what is happening. So as I was building my business, I realized, being a business of one, I was running out of hours in the day, right? With three business lines. And so what I had to do was to create my own little agents to help me manage my own little company. So I have four entirely virtual agents: a CFO, a CTO, a chief financial officer, a chief technological officer, a chief marketing officer, and a chief legal officer, called um, Fofai for the CFO, Totai for the CTO, Momai for the CMO, and Lalai for the CLO. So, we are a little team. Of course, I'm the only one with a beating heart, but they help me to no end. And I make sure that every day I give them little tasks, sometimes through WhatsApp, sometimes in different ways. I give them little tasks. I created very clear boundaries. And you cannot realize how important, having gone through that learning on a structure that has relatively little risk, because at the end of the day, I don't have a big established business, so I could take the risk of testing, is helpful when I talk to CEOs and chairman and board members, saying, this is what I've learned in doing it. For example, what I've learned is that these systems are incredibly unstable. And so you really need to be careful what you make them work on, because all of a sudden they may, for no reason, no apparent reason, ignore some of your instructions. So that's the moment that you learn that you really need to have quite a few fail-safe mechanisms and oversight. But you also learn that they can be extraordinary once you give them the structure of the thinking. They can be extraordinary at coloring the pattern, probably better than many humans and at a speed that very few humans can do. So basically, this little experimentation is teaching me what matters and what doesn't matter in a business concept, and combining it with the fact that I have been 30 years in a business context at every level of the chain. I can see the value of bringing which tool in which way into the business context to lead transformation, to re engineer processes, to push businesses at every level of size.
As an entrepreneur, you're now building from the ground up rather than transforming pre-existing structures. How has this changed your leadership style, and what new challenges have you discovered while building that?
So, first of all, it's been a fantastic learning because let's be honest, when you are for a long time at the top, you may get a bit disengaged from what happens in the company. I always had the sense that one needed to remain very close to what every employee does, but the reality is that you can only do it up to a certain level. This has allowed me to really reconnect, to really understand what people go through, to really understand what customers go through. Because at the end of the day, now there's nobody to help me install anything. I need to install every single software. I need to open my own bank accounts. I need to set up my companies. I need to do the taxes. I need to do all of these things. And you know what? It taught me a lot. It taught me a lot. Actually, I would say, I always said when I was in banking, for example, that I always wanted to spend a bit of time with real clients and in the call centers because it's important to understand what happens on the ground. Well, now, if I were to be an executive again, I would reiterate that even stronger because the learning I've gone through in just these few months of doing everything head to toe and toe to head has been extraordinary. And you know what it develops? It develops empathy, it develops understanding, it develops care. It's something that I really advise to anybody.
Many of our listeners are leaders contemplating their own entrepreneurial ventures, asking them, should I or shouldn't I dare? Perhaps some of them involving AI. What would you tell to someone who's considering making the leap from corporate leadership roles to build something new?
Look, it's an eminently personal choice and it depends on many things. But I would say if you can financially, at the stage of your career, etc. I mean, there's many considerations, but if you can, do it. Do it. Do it because I believe that in the future, actually, the world will belong to those that can dream new companies, new concepts, things like that. I think we will see in the coming years some one people, one person type of $1 billion businesses, which were unimaginable in the past. And so, I don't know for other people, but what I know is that I wasn't courageous enough at the moment of the internet. So I didn't take the leap at the moment of the internet. And I always thought, not having done it in 2000, that it was obviously too late to do it later. And then when I see that some companies that were born in 2006, 2008, 2012 are as big as they are today, I thought, Allegra, it's never too late. And so now that there was this new revolution, I thought, Allegra, how many revolution are you going to wait? Are you going to wait that you're 80 years old to take on something? And so I said, this is the moment. I'm taking the plunge. I'm doing the dare. I'm doing the dare.
You're doing the dare for sure. And you're inspiring others while you're doing your dare, which I think it's absolutely amazing. How do you balance the visionary aspect of entrepreneurship with your practical day-to-day execution, especially when you're building in such a rapidly evolving space like AI?
It's a fantastic question. So let me tell you one thing about me. I love horse riding, right? I absolutely love horse riding. And for anybody that loves horse riding or people that may not know as much about horse riding, essentially, it's a little bit like the combination of AI and human. You are with that animal, that superb, fantastic animal, and it has an intelligence. It has a will of itself. You cannot control everything. But yet the two of you can accomplish things that none of the two would be able to accomplish alone. And I sit on my horse and we just go for a hack in the countryside. Those are the moments that for me count as yoga moments. Those are the moments where I create this connection with this fantastic animal. Those are the moments where I have some of my best ideas. But in a way, those are also the moments that show me the path of how human and AI need to interact. This ability of taking the strengths of the two and combining them into doing something that neither of the two would be able. I'll just give an example. A horse on its own is basically never going to jump an obstacle. It just doesn't do it. It's going to go around, it's going to flee, it's just not going to do it. I certainly cannot jump what my horse jumps, but the two of us can actually jump an obstacle. And the horse finds it exhilarating. You can see that he accelerates to it. He likes it. He wants to go at it. And so this is just a simple example to say it's in those moments that I get my best ideas. And then I go back to my desk, to my PC, who by now has become the tool that I take everywhere, including to my terrace. And I just, develop whichever idea. And I can tell you, I used to arrive on Fridays being, oh, thank God it's Friday. And now I don't want to switch on my PC for another 2 days or whatever. Now, actually, I am excited every morning to switch on my PC and to see what that day is going to bring to us. How the past is going to develop in some exciting and slightly unexpected way.
And let's talk about your upcoming book, Care, Dare, Share, Then Thrive with Heart, Mind, and AI. Can you break down for me and the listeners this philosophy and how AI fits into this really human-centric approach to leadership?
I think you hit it on the nail. It's human-centric. So care, use your heart. Start with your heart. Think about what you can bring to society. Think about what your customers are going through. Think about your employees. Customers are not a number. They're a human. They're a family. They're a mother. They're a father. They're a man struggling through life. They're a woman waiting for, news. Whatever it is, they are human. Connect with them. Understand what they're going through. They're using your service for a reason, right? What is the reason? What are they trying to achieve? Connect with them. Your employees, exactly the same thing. They're not just employees in a very sort of blind way. They are human. They come, they decide to give you 8 to 10 to 12 to 14 hours a day of their time. Make it worth it. Understand what is their dreams, what are their fears, what is it that they want to accomplish, how you can help them, what are their pain points. Because if you start from what your customers and your employees are going through, every other business priority becomes very, very obvious because you know what value you can bring into their life. You know what problem you can solve for them. There means dare to focus, dare to take the choices, dare to change how things were done in the past if there's a good way to change, if there's a good reason to change them, not just for being a rebel or something or for being an innovator for the sake of innovation. That's useless. But if by innovating, taking new decisions, you can actually bring solutions to the care, to the problems you see, well, that's a very big step. And the last one is share. Dare to accept that you're not perfect. Share the anxiety, share the joys, share the fears. Tell when you're happy, tell when you fail, tell when you when you're learning something. A little bit like I'm trying to do. I'm really caring because I want to see how I can get AI in the best possible way and understand how it can help people to amplify themselves as opposed to being replaced. Daring, I dare to build code, show on quite publicly what I'm doing, with the risk that some of it fails. So be it. I'm not going to be neither the first nor the last one to fail. But in doing that, there is a joint humanity, there is a sharing of heart that actually allows everybody to go forward. And that is fantastic.
So, regarding the dare, you've certainly embodied this throughout your career. How do you encourage leaders to be bold with AI adoption while they are managing legitimate concerns about risk and job displacement?
The reality is that dare has courage in it. So you can constantly think, what do I have to lose? How do I make sure that I never make an enemy? How do I make sure that I'm playing this game as safe as possible? What's the right political story, etc.? And of course, you can go through life like that. If that's your choice, please be my guest. But realize that is not very inspirational. Everybody sees it. Everybody realizes it. Fine, if that's how you want to do it because you think you're going to become the most powerful person on earth, great. But look, cemeteries are full of people that were very powerful and nobody barely remembers them. At the end of the day, I think what is most important is to make a difference in the life of people. Is not how much wealth or how much power you accumulate. And I saw it recently. I even showed it on a post on LinkedIn where I happened to have an aunt that happened to have been a very, very spiritual person. And I was asked to go and talk about her, of course, at a conference for her, on her. And this is now 5 years after her death. And I had a room full of people that were dedicating 4 days of their life to talk about this woman that had changed their lives. And what I realized at that moment, more vividly than I ever realized before, although it was pretty clear also before, what I really realized that it's not about wealth, it's not about power, it's about the difference and the inspiration, the difference you make in the life of people and the inspiration you create in them to help them become the better version of themselves in whatever they're doing. That is true legacy. That is what I want to do. And if that is not enough to give you the courage to dare, I don't know what would give you the courage.
And share in your experience, what does knowledge sharing look like in an AI enhanced organization? How do leaders should create cultures of continuous learning?
You see, sharing is about sharing power fundamentally, is about accepting that you're not perfect, is about sharing what you know, is about accepting to share the power fundamentally. And that is also a very scary thing to do, right? Because if you have the power, you don't want to give it away. Well, the problem is that if you have the power and you keep it for yourself, nobody is going to be better off with it. So I think true leaders are the ones that feel so confident about themselves that they can share the power because they know that together, that organization, that community, that society is going to go further than if all of them were maximizing the little knowledge. And so in sharing the knowledge is exactly the same thing. In a company, create a environment where it is possible to say, this is what we've tried, this is what worked, this is what didn't work, this is what we're going to take with us, this is how we're going to share it. That's how you make it possible. Sharing is really about caring at the end of the day. And that's where share becomes a circle and reconnects, because sharing is caring, caring allows you daring, daring allows you sharing, and keep going.
It's a full circle. For leaders reading your book, when the book is launched, what's the one transformation in mindset you hope they'll experience?
That they accept to start with their heart. The heart is not something for the weak people. The heart is something for the strong people. Often heart is associated with women. No, heart is universal. There is a heart in every human being. And if you start with the heart, if you start with true care, if you start by thinking about the other person, not yourself, that is where you start creating an energy and an inspiration that transcends the fear and the pettiness of every single human being, included me. And therefore, that's the moment that you start making this transformation operate at an extraordinary level of energy, at an extraordinary level of alignment, at an extraordinary level of enthusiasm, and more importantly, at an extraordinary level of connectedness. When I left Aegon the Netherlands, I was given the very nice opportunity to make a farewell. And we had so many people that farewell had to be on a big parking. And I will tell you very honestly, I could barely refrain from crying. I was so moved seeing that somehow those 4,000 people, there were 8,000 in total, but 4,000 were present, that those 4,000 people felt that we together had done something so extraordinary that it was worth being on a parking under a bit of rain to actually celebrate that. Honestly, all the leader in me could not refrain the human emotional being in me. I've put it on the internet. It can be seen by anybody. That's one of those moments where I share. I share that I'm a human. I share that I'm emotional. I share how proud I am that we together did what we did.
Yeah, that's a great story. I will check out the video myself as well. It's quite moving as well. Let's move to some rapid fire questions to give our listeners quick insights from your wealth of experience. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions very quickly. I expect short answers. Best leadership lesson you learned from a failure?
Just stand up and start again. The first time I bought a horse, that horse I fell twice or three times the very same day. Honestly, I didn't feel very proud, but I said, stand on it again. And now that's the horse I love the most. He's my buddy in life. I would give everything for him. So stand up, try again.
Next question. One AI capability every single leader should understand by the end of 2025.
Whoa, that's a difficult one. I think the ability of creating automation. So, dear leaders, get yourself on Zapier, Make.com. Those are the easier one. Try to make an automation, a simple one, really simple one, right? Send an email, something really simple. Try. You'll see. It's an interesting learning.
Biggest advantage women bring to AI strategy and implementation.
It's much easier for a woman to use their heart. It's much more acceptable for a woman to use their heart. We can call it empathy. We can call it whatever. In reality, there is in everybody. But women, they have an unfair advantage that it's acceptable. Sometimes it's laughed at, but trust me, that's with envy. It's a very, very good advantage.
Most important skill for leaders in the AI age?
Curiosity. Curiosity. It's not because they didn't do it when you were young that you shouldn't look at it. Because guess what? iPhone didn't exist when you were young. Computer barely exists when you were young. So you know what? Curiosity. Dare to discover and don't be afraid of saying, yeah, what is this new thing you just talked about? Because you won't look stupid. Basically, even the experts 6 months ago didn't know what it was. So curiosity, dare to ask the questions.
One myth about AI in business you would like to bust?
A lot of people think AI is magic, it's going to solve everything. No. AI is fundamentally an uber arrogant, uber talented, uber memory junior with all the advantages of exactly those three adjectives I just gave. So if you put it into the right rails and ask the right task, fantastic. But if you ask him or her to explain your life, well, guess what? You're going to feel like slapping it all day long.
Your go-to question when evaluating new AI opportunities?
Is it really going to make a difference? Does it make any difference? Because honestly, there's no point in going to AI for AI's sake. The same way that if I need to put a nail, I'm going to just use a hammer. There's no point in taking a sledgehammer and a very sophisticated, whatever, connected hammer. Just a stupid hammer will do. So the point is, keep it simple, keep it practical, understand what it's going to make really a difference to. But basically, if it makes a real difference to your customer, a real difference to your employees, or actually can really disrupt some operational processes, yeah, that's pretty good.
Best career advice for women aspiring to tech leadership?
Forget you're a woman, because anyhow, that's what you are. You're a human, right? That guy is a man, that guy is whatever, that other person is something else. You are who you are. Just live with who you are.
If you could give only one single piece of advice to leaders implementing AI, what would it be?
It starts with people, it continues with people, it succeeds through people. 70% of any AI thing is people. So do not give it to your CTO. Keep it in the leadership team, under the business, under yourself as a CEO, whatever you want to do, but it's a business issue. It just happens to have some technical aspect, but you also wouldn't give every presentation to the CTO just because it's done on a computer, right? You would still keep it in the business. So it's exactly the same thing. It's just a tool used to do business. So what defines it is the business, not the tool.
Allegra, this has been absolutely fascinating. Before we wrap it up, where can our listeners connect with you, learn more about Silver Stripes Ventures, and stay up to date with your book release?
So the best is to go on my website, allegrapatrizi.com. ALLEGRAPATRIZI.com. There you can take an appointment with me. You can see all the releases of my articles. Whenever there's a podcast, whenever I participate in something, that's where I'm going to put it. And the other way is LinkedIn. I'm constantly on LinkedIn. That's in the end, my community by now, because, hey, I'm alone doing all this stuff. So LinkedIn has become a fantastic supporting and excellent community. So that's where I'm at. And soon you'll see a little YouTube channel appear, but that one is not up yet. So I can't yet tell you the name. But it's going to be something around care, dare, share. I'm pretty sure.
I'm going to add all those in the summary for the podcast, regardless which platforms our listeners choose to listen us today. So looking ahead, what excites you most about the intersection of human leadership and artificial intelligence?
It's exactly the story of the horse and me. Is the ability for human intelligence together with AI intelligence to actually do more than what each of them would do. And hence the title of my book, which is Care, Dare, Share, but then Lead and Thrive with heart, mind, AI. It's the combination of these three things that will make the impossible possible. It's the ability to see the art of the possible and to execute on it. I'm incredibly, incredibly grateful for living in this day and age and for actually having had the courage to step a bit aside from executive life to dare to do what I'm doing.
Thank you so much, Allegra, for sharing your insights with us today. Your journey from pioneering financial services to AI entrepreneur and your philosophy of leading with heart, mind, and technology offers such valuable lessons for all of us navigating this transformative time. And also it provides us with loads of inspiration. To our listeners, remember that the future belongs to leaders who can blend human wisdom with technological power. Allegra's story shows us that caring, daring, and sharing aren't just nice ideas. They are competitive advantages in an AI-driven world. Don't forget to subscribe to AI Everywhere Leaders podcast for more conversations with visionary leaders like Allegra. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with other leaders in your network or future leaders and leave us a review. Until next time, keep leading with both heart and mind. And remember, the best AI strategy is ultimately a human strategy. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Adriana, for having me. That was brilliant.
Thank you for listening to AI Everywhere Leaders podcast. This episode was Care, Dare, Share, How AI is Reshaping Leadership for the Bold and the Human with Allegra Patrizi. Follow us for more episodes with real leaders about AI for good.